Hello everybody, welcome back to Road to Master. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Starting off, we got the white pieces against a 1706 from the United States. Off we go with our A4, E4, not A4. I don't even know what opening A4 would be, to be honest, but we go in with E4, as we always do. And we have a Caro. So I'm pretty sure we've seen this before. But we're now playing the Advanced Caro, very similar to the Advanced French that we saw yesterday, which was an interesting game, to say the least. But we go ahead and play the Advanced variation, which is definitely an interesting sort of opening. Because they've already played C6, they don't have the immediate break, really. I mean, I guess they could do. But Bishop to F5 is the usual move. And then we're going to go ahead and play H4, going into the Tal variation of the Caro-Kann. And basically we're looking to mess up this bishop a bit. Cool. So, after pawn there, I believe our main move is bishop to G5. And after queen there, queen to B6, we're going to go ahead and play D3. I believe we have the option to sacrifice the bishop if they play an F6. But we're going to go ahead and continue with bishop to F3. So I'm pretty sure this is main line. Well, maybe not main line, but it's what I've learned. And yeah. They do have the option to take. And they go for that. And I believe after that we just take this. We just go knight F3 here. Cover this pawn as well. Attack the queen, and they're probably going to go ahead and take this pawn. At which point we potentially take the bishop. We could also do something to develop this knight. So we've got a bit of a decision here. Do we sack the exchange? Or what we could do is go bishop back to D2, and potentially stop them taking the rook. However, after that, they can just take this pawn as well, so it doesn't particularly work out. I believe maybe we just take the bishop here and we play like an E6 maybe, with hopes of like a check. Ooh, okay. Let's think. I am a bit worried about going down a rook. But there's no way to really stop it, to be honest, because if we go there, bishop takes, pawn takes, we've sort of lost our advantage. At least if we take the bishop, we're getting the majority of our pieces out, and we can start potentially an attack on the king. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take the bishop. And they're just going to go ahead and take the rook. And now we've got to calculate if E6 works. Pawn push is probably the better move, and then takes, not takes, check. King goes that way, only move. At which point we've got to come up with some sort of attack. We've got potentially like a knight E5, although the pawn is covering that as well as the queen. Yes. We even have like a knight D4 could be nice. And maybe hit that. We're also losing that pawn as well. Something to consider. But thing is, this E5 is also stopping the development of that knight there. We could castle, and then we're free to move our queen because the rook would cover the knight. wherever we would move the queen. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. But we are down material. We are definitely down material. I'm pretty sure I've played this according to my theory, so I'm not sure why I feel quite like it's not working out. Maybe I need to force up some counterplay, maybe with like a b4. Then at least we're getting sort of checks in that way. That could work. Should we go with b4? Yeah. Why not? Why not? Queen takes. So they go that way, which is interesting. And maybe we can just take that. And after bishop takes, we could do like takes. And then we're actually threatening. So takes. We're actually threatening to win this rook with a promotion. Actually, no, we're not, because knight can takes and it covers the mate there. So this is quite interesting. Maybe that's why e6 could have been better. There, takes. Maybe an e6 then. Or we could do takes with a queen, c2. Queen c2, we're also threatening to trap the queen, which could be good. So potentially even bishop takes, pawn takes, queen c2. We're threatening check there, potentially winning a fair bit of material, which could be cool. Queen takes pawn. If we go queen there first, I'm not a big fan. It's not as scary. So maybe takes first. Let's do takes first, and then queen c2 seems to be okay. I know that's quite a common idea in this sort of opening. They've got takes. Yeah, queen c2 now. Knight there to cover that, and then we bring the bishop back, and that's an interesting little check. Maybe we just go queen up, king up. Maybe we just go king up. Because the queen's still trapped. We've still got the same check. And the bishop's still coming in. Although it is on a different square. So that's good. We don't quite have like a knight c2 now because of the bishop. But bishop c1 should still be good. We've also got a bishop e3 as well, which actually could be better. Because it stopped d4. So they go knight there, and then that would stop any d4 activity. And then the queen's getting trapped that way. Although bishop there, knight there is really annoying. Yeah, really annoying, actually. So how do they stop bishop c2, c1 then? They can't stop bishop c1. So let's just do that then. Everything's still trapped. I think they realise that now. So potentially we played this right. If we're winning the queen for, what's that, a piece and a rook and a pawn, that's a good deal. I'd take that deal. It might not be materially as good. It might be a bit more even on material, but the thing about that is that you've got to consider how easy it is to actually play the position. Like, if you're up a queen, it's going to be easier to play a position than if you're down a queen, you know. it sounds simple, but it's quite a complicated thing to sort of consider. You've got to consider the like how dynamic the position is. Is it closed off? Would you prefer the knights and rooks? Stuff like that. And it's super interesting. We've got to be careful here though, actually, because that doesn't quite trap the queen, in fact. Yeah, it doesn't quite trap the queen. Knight there, hit that. Now this is super interesting. Ooh, we also have queen there, hit the bishop. Still cover the pawn. And then the rook's covering. Yeah, that's quite nice. Let's go ahead with that. And if they go there, we still take. And then knight there would block the check quite well. That's super interesting. Let's go with that. And this is spicy. I quite like it. This is real spicy. I think knight there is probably the best move, and just get rid of the bishop. And I'm not sure which way black's castling. They could really do it either way, but they're going to have a hard time defending this knight at all, basically. If the pawn push, I can just go back. Actually, no, I can't just go back. I can maybe take. It doesn't look as good either. Well, maybe I could just go knight there, and it's still as good as trapped, basically. Maybe takes first. No, because then that lets the knight in. Yeah, it's still as good as trapped after we take the bishop. And maybe then we've got like a rook e1 followed by a bishop move. Would keep everything quite tight. Yeah, because knight there covers the pawn. That's the idea, and this is super interesting. I'm loving this position. Not because it's necessarily good, but it's active. You know, at least it's active. So we're down 2 pawns here, and an exchange. Now, which one do we block with? We can block with either piece. I think potentially blocking with the knight's gonna be better, just so we've got like a bishop there hitting the knight. We've got to be careful about pawn push though. That's something I saw, but I didn't feel the need to play bishop. Knight there's also covering any queen b3 activity. Let's go ahead and take this pawn. Knight checks a bit scary, but I think we're just fine, really. Check king there, queen there. Oh, he's terrifying. Threatening mate. Ooh. No, I don't like that. Not one bit. Not a fan at all. Indeed. Oh, we can just take the pawn though. Queen takes, knight takes. You've got to check first, maybe. But again, it's going to end up at the same. Let's take the pawn. We're down 2 pawns and an exchange. Trading off queens isn't ideal, but it stops a lot of their threats, and potentially we can get a knight onto d6, which would be quite nice. And we've just got to use our pieces the best we can. We'll pre-move queen takes, knight takes. See how that goes. But this is super interesting. Yeah, that probably smart for them to go for that. But these knights hopefully will do a good job of defending and attacking. B5 looks tempting, but check looks annoying for black. King there, you win the exchange back. Whether I want that or not is a different question. Because we are actually just down 2 pawns at the same time. And that's from the opening as well. So we'll have to actually check if this is the right opening sequence, because it seems to lose a lot of pawns. But queen takes b2, I'm pretty sure isn't good. Maybe we just misplayed the trap a bit. Because there was a lot of potential to actually trap the queen there, and maybe we just misplayed that. I think bishop b4 check was smart from them. Okay, so they've castled kingside. It's a move. Knight there hits the pawn. That would be quite good for us. Let's go. Yeah, let's go knight there. Just win this pawn. If we can win that, that would be quite nice. This knight's still covering this pawn, and then we're hitting the rook afterwards as well. So if they did like a B move, we could go in first, and then if they take, we take the knight. I don't see what that's doing. King f1 covers the pawn. Now we could have even given this pawn away for some attack on the king. No, I don't think that's quite likely though. Obviously going e1 both hangs the pawn and hangs a fork. Not that it's devastating, but we don't really want to be trading off our pieces. Our active pieces are really what's sort of going for us at the minute. We didn't really want to trade the knight either. Again, active pieces. We're just going to play like a g3 here. Kick the knight out and then claim this pawn. But yeah, it's I know I say interesting a lot, but this is really interesting. I think it's better for black. They're going to have to play dodgy to mess this up a bit, but who knows? Who knows? Anything can happen. I think a bishop a3 is probably smart here. Actually, they're threatening takes, so we're going to have to go bishop e3. Yeah, bishop e3 is the only really move. If we're hitting that, we've got to do a king e2, hit the knight. Knight's coming back to check though, which is super annoying. And again, we don't want to trade off with the bishop. We want to keep everything on the board if we can. The problem is 3 connected pass pawns is going to be extremely hard to beat. We need to really play that smart. However we do, we need to get this rook out first. Whether that's a king e2 or a rook h3, I'm not quite sure. Probably going to be a king e2 after a g3, so we don't get checked again. Yeah, this is okay. So they took the pawn. Let's take the knight and just take that pawn. It's one less thing to worry about. I know I said trading pieces wasn't ideal, but I think there we didn't really have a choice in the matter. We get the pawn back, and one less knight is one less thing to worry about as well. Obviously, we've got the fork if they go for rook e8, which we will take. It's still probably not good for us, but our king can cover these pawns, and if we can get a rook involved as well, it'll be quite nice. knight g5. Rook doubled. Rook doubled, and then knight e4 covers the pawn. Hits the rook, but not much else. Alternatively, could go back and hope for a fork. It's not even a fork because the knight covers, so we're gonna have to go knight to g5. Yeah, and now king e2 is probably the better move. If we can ever deal with these pawns, it's going to be through king e2. The good thing is this rook's covered to this pawn, which is good. Yeah, it's looking bleak. I'm not gonna lie, it is looking bleak, but we have chances. We've got, they could always mess up. And we've just got to play in a way that makes it easy for them to mess up. Basically, that's the way you play when you're down. You've got to spice things up, make it complicated, and make life tough for them. Make them make critical moves that could go severely wrong. Basically, easier said than done. Obviously, much easier said than done. But it definitely is a skill. Not that I have the skill either, but yeah, it is something people can do. Better players than me. And yeah, this is just adding to the list of not very good positions we're getting, and it's disappointing, really, to be honest. Like, I know I always try to stay positive, but losing so many games all the time it gets rough. Eventually, the novelty wears off. But we keep playing. Losing's a part of the game, part of any game. And all you can do is try to get better. Try to talk yourself out of it. And mostly, this stuff's going to be a mental barrier rather than a skill-based barrier, because we know we can play better than this. But yeah, what can you do? I hope it's not affecting the content too much. Is this little slump? I hope you're all still finding my commentary enjoyable, if you ever did in the first place. And I'll try my best to keep it lighthearted and keep things interesting, at least. Even if it's a bad position, it's going to be an interesting bad position. But yeah, we need them to make a move. They've spent a while on this one. I don't see the harm in any sort of A5, B5 activity. Potentially they can double up, although hanging the pawns seems a bit risky. No really attack sort of works. They would have to get a rook here or push this one in order to sort of trap the bishop with a b6 move, which would take a while. So I'm not really scared of any of that. That's something you've got to be aware of when you're taking these sort of side pawns, the H or A pawns. Be aware of any pawn push to trap your bishop, but it doesn't particularly work out in this situation, which is positive. Yeah. I just come back from the gym as well. Always go to the gym on Tuesdays, which was a good session, trying out some new stuff there. And yeah, just doing good all round. I've got a coaching session tomorrow as well. See how that goes. That's going to be the first sort of proper one. I had a trial lesson before Christmas. I think I've switched coaches since then due to scheduling reasons, but yeah, hopefully it goes well tomorrow. You're obviously going to get your video tomorrow, It's going to be a Wednesday lesson, actually. We always try to do a little beginner sort of tips lesson video on a Wednesday. It's just the best day of the week that I can make it. Not doing it else. I think we're doing King and Pawn Endgames tomorrow, and it's going to be the start of a little endgame series I want to do. Because endgames are my favourite part of chess, for some psychopathic reason. No one really likes them, but I think they're really cool and interesting. I think everything about chess is cool and interesting, but I think endgames are particularly interesting, I guess. I need to think of a better word for interesting. So there you go, knight there. And I think now we just go. It's a tough move, is knight there, because we can't push the pawn. Otherwise we hang the bishop. And if we move the bishop anywhere else, it's just sort of getting chased about. After like a rook there. There, and then they're potentially getting some sort of checks. That's actually devastating, is that. So we might need to trade off the bishop as well. Not ideal. We could potentially, no, because we need to keep the bishop on this diagonal to cover the pawn, which is the annoying bit. And at the minute we're hanging the bishop because the rook's pinning the pawn, which is annoying. I guess after the rook moves we can go knight there, cover that, and it stops any back rank checks. Not that it's a back rank, but you know what I mean, winning this rook. Ooh, wait a second. Yeah, no, I think that's fine. What did I say? Bishop, yeah, bishop d4. Yeah, so if they decide to take, we're just going to take the rook. And yeah, anything else. So it's probably going to be a rook d6. Although, yeah, rook d8 is quite nice, actually. I think we're just losing. I think we might just be completely losing, which is a shame. Yeah, there's not much we can do, because this check is just so devastating. Rook d1 check is absolutely devastating. So if we go knight f3, they actually have a rook takes, pawn takes. Oh no, they don't, because I'm hitting the knight at the end of it. Knight takes, check, takes, king takes, pawn takes, and we're just getting crushed by these, I believe. Yeah, and there's not much else we can do about it, to be honest. It's sort of forced, and I don't see why they wouldn't do rook d8. I was thinking about taking this, so they go that way, which is better for us. And we're going to go knight to whatever that is, f3. Not worried about that anymore. Pawn push, because we can just take, and after rook check we do knight blocks. And then we have bishop covering the knight in case the other rook comes over. Yeah, we would have to get the king up to stop any sort of knight maneuvers. Yeah, so they can just go ahead and do that now, which is what we sort of feared. And we're going to have to play king e2. As much as I hate it, we are going to have to bite the bullet. They're going to look for a check here. I think we might just have to. The problem is knight check, and the bishop's pinned as well. It's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. We might have to drop the bishop back to e3. I hate to say it. We might have to drop the bishop back to e3 and play the rook versus knight with the 3 connected passes, which is just, to be honest, it's resignable. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is resignable. And then they don't even have to take it. They can just double up again, and there's not much I can rightly do about anything. Yeah, shame. What a shame, because I feel like we played the opening right. We're going to go knight g5 and try for some potential tricks. If we can ever get the rook out, however it is, with a potential back rank, but it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Even a fork wouldn't really save us now. Yeah, all we can do is try and hope. Try and hope. But what's chess about, really, if it's not about trying and hoping for outcomes you can't control, you know? Check is good here. I've got to go in front, otherwise the pawn promotes. Then they've got check. And then, yeah, it's a matter of potentially just ladder mating me. The rook's nice, at least it covers the back rank, but it doesn't make heap a difference, really. That's an interesting check. Sorry for the yawning. Super tired. We'll go king a3 anyway. But both these are hanging. Maybe rook up there with the rook there could be interesting, but they just go for the pawn. And why shouldn't they? You know, it's what I would do. That's the efficient way to do it. No need to risk losing stuff when you could just win. You know. And they know they don't even have to worry about this back rank if they just keep a rook there as well. So they're a smart cookie, you know, not a fluke. You know, they played it right. They played it right. So yeah, congrats to them. You could spin that and say we messed it up, but to be honest, I thought we played it pretty well. It's just the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, sometimes you draw, because drawing's an option as well in chess, I guess. Not that I see many draws. It's usually decisive results for us. There we go. Cool. Game review. Let's have a look at this opening, because that's what's sort of interested me, this game. And yeah, it looks like from the graph out the opening we were fine. They had a 91.1 accuracy, 1600 versus 2300. Let's jump straight in. We'll do the game review, then look at the opening. There, yep, there, yep. Yeah, so queen takes is good. Hanging the bishop, but obviously you get the counterplay on the pawn. Still book, bishop takes, yeah. Oh, and it did in fact 1 e6. I was wondering if that was too soon or not. But we can have a look at e6. I'll know definitely for next time, because it was in my mind. I just wasn't 100%, you know. They played e6 themselves, absolutely perfect move. I sort of realised that after they played it, it killed a lot of my counterplay. But we just go for bishop takes, which isn't particularly as bad as it seems. Obviously, you're down a piece, but you get a lot of counterplay on the queen. And instead, it just wanted queen b3, and then you're going for this one as well, and that would stop any bishop check, which caused us a mighty load of problems as well. And then again, queen b3, and we actually ended up going queen b3 anyway, just the slow way around, just to stop the check. Obviously, they played the exact right move. Going queen b3 after the fact is just brilliant, really. Just nailing the coffin. Yeah, and then we sort of had to trade off queens here. And it's just, we knew it was nasty. We lost a lot of our play. But if you're playing these gambits, you've got to know how to play them. And this is a lesson to anyone who's thinking about playing a gambit. You know, actually learn the gambit. Probably would help. We don't really need to go to the end game. It was pretty clear cut. But what we will do is look at the opening. Queen takes. Yep. So we'll get a win for white. Have we seen this one? Anad Kartav something versus Evgeny Poldok something. Win for white. I don't know if we've seen this one, but yeah, knight. And then queen g4. I don't think I've seen that in my theory. In fact, I might have. Yeah, bishop takes, queen takes maybe. Bishop takes, queen takes. So you're threatening that. Although it's not really threatening because the knight is covered. So there, and then you go with c4. They throw in a cheeky check here, which I don't think I've seen. I think I've seen up to c4, and then they can sort of play for counterplay, but you sort of gobble up these pawns. The check's interesting, and then they decide to block with the bishop. Obviously, the d4 doesn't work because you've got just so many things defending it. It just doesn't work. Although you are hanging the c4 pawn. I'm not sure what would happen after that. Unfortunately, I don't think the analysis really works. I don't think I can analyze these games. Maybe add game. I don't know how that works. No, I don't know. Anyway, back to it. Where were we? That one. Yep. Yeah, I don't know why they can't take c4 afterwards. They go for e6 instead. Maybe that just stops any e6 from white. Although after queen takes, I don't see why that's bad either. Maybe they just want to focus on development instead. And then you kick the knight and cover the c4 square at the same time. The queen comes further in rather than escaping, which is a bold choice. But obviously these people know what they're doing. And white goes to take. After black takes, white just continues developing. So black's still up a pawn. And black's just trying to add the pressure. Not trading off the queens, which was a mistake of ours. Really. And keep just bullying that queen. That's an interesting one. And I think that's a lot of the reason why you play g5. It just stops any castling. Not that black really ever wants to castle in the Caro-Kann because of its inherent c6 weakness. But in this position, it is a possibility that black could want to castle queenside. And it stops any knight f3, so they've got to break with a pawn and create these light squared weaknesses coming in. So after pawn push takes. And white gives a cheeky check. And this is still about even. It's 0.4 for black. So, you know, there's a lot of play still in it. And that's a real cheeky move. So hanging the piece, but then you would have check potentially picking up that. In fact, definitely picking up that. Although the knight could block, which would be interesting. So takes check. King there. No, what was it? Block. Oh, and then you can take with the pawn and hit the knight. Some c5 could come, but then you've got rook e6 potentially, and that looks super interesting. Knight e7, not taking the sacrifice. So what white sees like don't work there after the knight's covering the f5 square, and the bishop just drops back just to not sacrifice anymore basically. And white does a rook lift rather than castling. White just goes straight for the rook lift. Although I see black can just take that file themselves. But they make a bit of a mistake here for some reason, and they go rook a8. I'm not sure why that's a mistake. I'm sure we'll see. Oh, because the knight comes in? The knight comes in on g5? Giving a check. Knight blocks, rook f5, so you're obviously just letting it take. Oh, and after there you do rook takes and king takes. And then you're dragging the king away from this square as well. Ah, I get you. Oh, and then they open up the queen, which just sacks the queen, basically. White don't even want it because they don't want after rook takes. Yeah, the discovered sort of attack from the knight, potentially. And then, yeah, this just looks like White's up. Materially, they're only up a pawn worth. But yeah, I mean, with Black's king just in the center of the board, it's going to be extremely hard to defend that. And that's a resignation, I believe, right after queen takes pawn. Really cool game, actually. I think we've seen this sort of knight g5 idea before, so that's a super interesting one to keep an eye on. And then obviously the e6 is the kicker. That we have to remember. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you all for watching. Please like if you liked. Please subscribe if you really liked. I'll catch you guys all tomorrow for our lesson. Again. Yeah, bye-bye.